welcome to the show. We're going to jump right into a really big idea today, our planet's obsession with economic growth. For decades, it's been the goal for pretty much every country out there. But what if we've been running full speed in the wrong direction?
Just think about it. What if that one single metric we use for everything, to measure success, to guide our policies, to shape our entire societies, what if it's just fundamentally flawed? It sounds pretty radical, I know, but it's a question that's getting a lot harder to just brush aside.
All right, so let's start by digging into the reigning champ of all economic numbers, gross domestic product. You know it as GDP. It's that number you hear on the news every night. It's the one politicians build their entire careers on, and it's the number that can make or break the stock market.
For over 70 years now, GDP has basically been our report card for how a country's doing. If GDP is going up, hey, the economy's growing. And that's always been seen as a good thing, right? More stuff being made, more services, more money flying around. Simple.
This analogy just nails it. A speedometer will tell you you're going 100 miles an hour, which sounds impressive, but it has no idea if you're actually heading toward a beautiful destination or driving straight off a cliff. It doesn't care if you're stuck in traffic spewing pollution or if the people in the car are even happy. It just measures speed.
So if GDP is basically just a flawed speedometer, what's the alternative? Well, this is where a really provocative idea comes in. A movement that basically looks at our obsession with endless growth and says, hold on, maybe that's the whole problem.
Okay, now it is super important to get this right. Degrowth is not a recession. It's not an economic crisis. The people who advocate for it see it as a conscious choice, a planned, democratic downshifting of our economy to get it back within the limits of our planet.
So the whole point here isn't to make life worse for everyone. In fact, it's the opposite. The argument is that by focusing less on just producing more stuff, we can actually improve our well-being, share wealth more fairly, and build a society that's, more sustainable and maybe even more fun to live in.
Now, a really key part of this whole debate comes down to this idea of decoupling. People who believe in green growth think we can have what's called absolute decoupling, where the economy grows, but our environmental damage actually goes down. But degrowth supporters, they're really skeptical. They say that what we mostly see is relative decoupling, and that the idea of pulling off absolute decoupling everywhere fast enough to matter for climate change, the evidence just isn't there.
But of course, degrowth has some major critics. A lot of economists will tell you it's completely unrealistic. Historically, a shrinking economy has never been good for the poor. It could lead to massive unemployment, social unrest. And that last quote really sums up the main fear. You don't bake a smaller cake and expect the poorest to get a bigger slice.
But, this whole debate isn't just a simple grow versus shrink argument. Some people are now saying we're asking the wrong question in the first place. What if the real problem is the goal we're all aiming for?
Let's just imagine for a second that we could have infinite growth without destroying the planet. Would that even be the right thing to aim for? Does having a bigger economy automatically mean we have a better society?
Okay, this is where things get really fascinating. This data from the Social Progress Index basically compares a country's wealth with its actual social outcomes, things like health, safety, and education. And just look at the United States. It's got the highest GDP per person in the G20, but its social progress score is way down the list. And then you see a country like Argentina, which achieves a similar level of social progress with way less money. It really suggests that a country's policy choices matter a whole lot more than just its raw economic output.
And that quote right there just sums it all up, doesn't it? GDP is not a destiny. Having a ton of wealth doesn't automatically mean a better life for your citizens. It's what you do with that wealth that really, truly matters. So we know GDP is pretty terrible at measuring our well-being. But the problems don't even stop there. There's a huge and growing argument that in today's world, GDP isn't even doing a good job of measuring the economy itself. Get a load of this number. 25.4 billion pounds. A study estimated that this was the value of just 3 types of free digital goods, things like the free versions of Zoom or Google Drive, to households in the UK in a single year. That is a massive amount of value that is completely invisible to our official GDP numbers.
So here's the double whammy, right? Our single most important economic number not only fails to measure the things that make life good, but it's also missing huge, gigantic chunks of our modern digital world. It's like we're trying to navigate a brand new city using a tattered old map from 50 years ago.
So, where does all this leave us? We've talked about the limits of GDP, we've looked at the radical challenge from degrowth, and we've seen how our main metric is failing to measure both how we live and how our economy actually works. It seems pretty clear. We need a better compass.
And this is a perfect way to break it all down. You've got these three major challenges to our whole growth first model. First, the ecological one. Can we keep growing forever on a planet with limited resources? Second, the well-being one. Is growing our economy even the right goal for a good society? And third, the measurement one. Does GDP even work anymore in a world of free digital services?
It really feels like our old compass is broken, and it might be leading us somewhere we don't want to go. The real challenge for all of us now is to figure out together what a new compass should look like and where we actually want it to point.